Hello everyone, this is Zombie Kids Rule, and I am doing this video for a Steam user, I believe by the name of Retron, and the user had posted a question on Steam discussion boards and was asking about how to do actually they posted one question, and I tried to help with that, and then they came back with another question, and the second question was about doing like a Pokemon style encounter where the way it sounds like is like the Pokemon in the wild sees you, they make some sort of exclamation or something, and then they approach you and you get involved in combat. So I knew that I had something similar to that that I had done with another tutorial, and that I had messed around with, and so I found that and I tweaked it a little bit, and then I made another option for it. I think both of them do the distant encounter triggering, where you're triggering an encounter from a distance or from proximity. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm doing this video, post it on this channel, and then I'll put a link for the Steam user to maybe come check it out. I hope it helps them, and I hope it helps whoever else. This is just two ways that I can see to do this. I'm there, and again, there may be others. There may be better ways. There may be a plugin that does this very well. I don't know. As I said before in I think another video or comments, I don't use plugins right now. So I will show you what this does. Ignore everything else on this map. This was one of the pre-existing maps that I used to, and then did some experimentation with for different things. But we'll just ignore everything other than these two events. It's going to be this witch person and this pumpkin head guy. We're going to trigger the encounters through proximity. So we'll go ahead and start this up. And the first one, there's an event that's going to trigger when I step on it, and now I can't move, party can't move. The character comes up and they jump a couple times, they make an exclamation, and then we enter combat. So we'll go ahead and just get through this combat go through this combat real fast. And this doesn't have a very high hit point, just messing around, so it's pretty simple, pretty easy. And then that was the first one. So there's this event right here that triggers the encounter. And then down here, the encounter is triggered through proximity surrounding this character. So as soon as I step in the character's area, the character's going to trigger, and it's going to start the combat. And again, it's a very simple combat, just to show that the combat isn't what we're trying to show here. It's just very quick and simple. And should be over here. Yay, we killed the bro. Look at us, we're very fancy. And there we go. And so now, the two characters are gone. So those are the two ways that I wanted to show how to do this. And we'll talk about each one, and like I said, there may be other ways, but we'll see some different things about each one. This first one is being triggered by an event, okay, a specific event here, and what's happening is when our player steps. So initially, this event is below the character. It is player touch, and there's no image there. There's no indicator that they're stepping on something. So there's no warning, if you will. As soon as the player steps on this and touches it, it will trigger the contents. The first thing it's going to do is do that using a script to set a self switch on another event. Okay, on event 9. So I had shown this in a previous video. This is a very, very handy script. $game self switches dot set value, and you remember you have to use the capitals in the right places, or there will be problems. And then there's parentheses, bracket. 6 is the number of the map. We're on map 6. You can see that down here, Stone Cave. It's going to set the self switch for event 9. So event 9 is over here, and it's actually that witch character, and we'll see that in a second. The A is the self-switch value, A, B, C, or D, and you have to use single quotes here. Bracket, comma, and then true is turning that switch on. False turns it off. and then we have our closing parentheses. So that is the script. It's a great script because it allows you to turn a self switch on or off in another event, even on another page. I'm sorry, even on another map, which is really cool. You can basically, pick up any map, any event, and turn a self switch on or off. So that's the first thing it does. Then it's going to do that show balloon icon over the player. And, sometimes I forget to, to change it on the appropriate party. And then it's going to wait because I want this triggering event has to be timed with the event of the enemy that's going to come engage with us, just because of the way this is set up. So I'm having this do this 3 times so that our player is stuck. Our player can't move. That's what's happening with the wait command. We're changing the background music here just because I think when I was doing this for some reason, I think in this game I had set a music common event. So anyway, that's not relevant to this one, but we're changing the battle music. We're going to enter battle processing. So it's the event that the player steps on that's triggering the battle processing. And after the battle's over, we change the background music, and then we switch a control switch. We turn that on, and it's called Jumberjack. It probably should be Lumberjack, but anyway, it's Jumberjack. And then on page 2 of this event, there's the first place we're going to use that switch, that Jumberjack switch. And what that does is it makes this page active. It makes this page is the page with the highest page where the conditions are met. There's no image still, right? It's an action button, it's below characters, but there's no content, so it's not going to do anything anymore. So this event is now effectively shut off. Okay. So that's the event that's going to trigger this proximity engagement. So flipping this self switch on event. We'll just go ahead and do that. Doesn't matter. It's event 9. So we can see that this is event 9. And initially, it's just the sprite. And right, the sprite is just sitting there, no contents. They're fixed. They're not doing anything. The self switch A page, page 2, that's being turned on by the event that the character steps on, and it's a parallel event. So as soon as this self switch A is turned on, this parallel event starts to run, and it runs at the same time as the other event. It doesn't auto run, meaning it doesn't freeze everything. It's running in parallel with everything else, and it is a higher and actually this one is this isn't important because we're going to move the sprite by a movement route. So the first thing it does is it shows the balloon icon over the enemy, right, saying, hey, whoa, something happened. Then we set a movement route, and I did it this way. Instead of having the character approach if through its own movement, autonomous movement, because I also wanted to have the character do that jumping animation, and I also wanted them to do that balloon icon over their head again before battle. So with this movement route, basically it's moving right, down, down, then it's in front of the character or in front of the party, so it turns right, then it jumps up, it waits a fraction of a second, 10 frames, 60 frames is a second. So it waits very tiny amount of time, jumps again, and then it's going to be done with this portion. And you can see the preview. It's going boom, 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 and then turning, right? So that's what it's doing. And skip if cannot move, that won't be applicable. Wait for completion, right? So that's gonna take care of that. And then when it reaches its destination, when the sprite reaches its destination and it has done its 2 jumps, then it shows that balloon icon of the exclamation over the enemy. And just as this is ending, right? The other event is getting to a point where battle plot processing starts. So I had to time this very carefully, and I had to make sure that I had the appropriate amount of weights and things like that, because I didn't want the party to be able to move while this was happening. And then page 3 is that second place that we use that switch, that Jumberjack switch. So after the battle processing, we change that battle music, and then we switch that control switch, and that moves this enemy sprite page to page 3, And again, now there's no enemy, right? The enemy has disappeared, and there's no content, so essentially this event is done. Okay, so we can discard changes. So again, when the player steps on this, it's going to turn that self switch on for the other event so it can start moving. It's going to freeze the player by waiting with that balloon icon, changes the battle music. Then it enters battle processing just as that other event is finishing up its actions to make it timed properly. And then once the event is over, once the battle's over, then it turns on the self switch or the control switch so that this page can advance so that the event is essentially done. And then also, once this is finished, right, we use the script from the other event to turn the self switch A on, which moves it to this page, parallel event. And then we show the exclamation, we do the set movement route, so we do the appropriate movement, the turning to face the party, the jumps, we do the exclamation one more time, and then that battle processing happens at the same time. And then that control switch is going to move this page to where there's no contents and they're both done. So that's one way to do it. And this way requires you to do some timing to make sure that the player can't move and get away, and that the animations are working in time with each other for the battle processing to start. So that's just one way to do this. Down here with this pumpkin guy, his first page or its first page is just hanging out with an image. And then the second page is where a self switch A has been turned on. And it wasn't turned on by this event. I'll show you where it was turned on in just a minute. Once this gets switched, right, we still have the sprite. Now, this is autonomous movement approach. So approach is that this enemy, this sprite, is going to move towards the party. And so I set the speed at normal but highest frequency, and it makes it harder for the party to get away. The party's not going to be frozen in this example. I could make it even higher, and then it moves at a ridiculous speed, and the player will not be able to get away, most likely. And it is same as character, and then it's event touch, so that when this sprite touches, right, this event touches the party, it's going to trigger the contents, which it'll show its balloon icon of anger. It's going to enter battle processing, and once battle processing is over, it'll set a self switch of B for this event, which triggers page 3, self switch B. That's now the highest page. There's no sprite anymore. There's no content. So again, this event is done now, right? This event is done. But how did we throw that self switch A to start this, to get this to approach us at good speed and then automatically start the contents by event touch? We did that through this little tiny event up here, regional ID trigger. And so you can put these I'm sorry, not a common event. You can put these events anywhere on the map, essentially where preferably someone can't step or anything. And this event is running in parallel. So what it's doing on page 1, it doesn't have anything visual to see that it's there. Nobody can step on it. It is running in parallel, and what it's doing is that it is doing a conditional statement. If, and we're going to use a script here, if the game map region ID, so we're using region IDs, if the region ID of the game map of the player, so the player coordinate X and the player coordinate Y, is equal to a region ID of 7, then it's going to do another script, which is that using the script to turn on the self switch. And in this one, it's a little different. It's that $game self switches dot set value, but instead of the number of the map, it's using this dot underscore map ID, right? So this map ID, which is 6, but it's this map ID. And then 11 is the event that it's going to trigger. That's the Pumpkinhead guy. And then the switch is A, and the value is true, so it's turning it on. Once it does this, right, if the conditions are met, then it's going to turn a self switch on, which will advance the page, and then there's nothing else. It's going to turn itself off, right? There's no more parallel event, nothing's running. If this condition is not met, so if the player coordinate x and y is not on a region ID of 7, then it's going to essentially wait 10 frames, which is not even 1 full second, and then it's going to check again, and it's going to check again, and it's going to check again, and it's going to keep checking as long as you're on this map until until the event can be completed. If you never step on a region of 7, then essentially this will just run, and nothing will happen. Okay, because it'll never be true. So this one right here again is I'll open this up. It's a conditional branch, right? So we're in the conditional branch, page 4, script, and once more, okay, you can see it here. It's $game map, so capital M for map, dot region ID, where the I in ID is capitalized, parentheses $game player, capital P, dot X, so the X coordinate of the player, and then the same thing, the Y coordinate of the player. So we're taking the player's coordinates and we're comparing the region ID of this map for whether it's a value of 7. And if that's true, right, if the player ever steps on a region ID with a value of 7, it will trigger that self switch of turning the self switch A for event 11 for the event on this map. And the reason I did that, I just want to mention this, is because I'm not sure. I'll show you the regions in just a second. I know what this is doing, but I guess I don't know exactly how the engine is using the region IDs all the time, because when I did this the first time, I tested this, I was using a region ID of 2, and it should have worked perfectly fine. But what happened was when my player, as soon as the player stepped on a region ID of 2, it actually teleported the player to another map that I had doing something over here, a puzzle map, which has region ID of 2 used. It shouldn't have done that, and I don't know why it did that. But yeah, I fixed it by changing the region ID of this event. So this sprite is surrounded by a region ID of 7. So anytime the party steps on anytime the party steps on any region ID square tile, right, that is region ID 7, it's going to trigger that pumpkin guy, and he's going to come and get you. And you can see that there were regions also set up on this map for other things, but I changed it for this. So again, this is why we have to test our games, because if it should have worked using region ID of 2, but I did have a puzzle down here, an invisible path puzzle that had a lot of region 2s on it, and it shouldn't have caused a problem. My party should not have been teleported to this map based on that script, but it was. So again, it was fixed by instead of using sorry, the over here, instead of using the 6 for this map, which is what I would normally use, when I changed it to this map ID, and then I also changed the region to 7, and now it works perfectly fine. So again, I'm just going to caution you. This is a way to do it, but if it interferes with any other part of your game, if it doesn't function right, then that's something you need to watch for. And that's pretty much it. I showed you we're waiting here so that your game isn't, every millisecond checking this parallel event, right? And I showed you the region IDs of how those are set up. And you can essentially do this, you could have a big map where you have different enemies spread out, or Pokemon or whatever you want to call them, and they're surrounded by different numbers. And you're having a parallel event run that's waiting to see if the player steps on a region ID with that number. And if they do, it activates that event, that enemy that's going to then come and approach you. And so that's another way to do it. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. Again, I'm going to share this with the Steam user that asked. I hope it's what they're looking for. And if it's helpful for them, great. If it's helpful for anybody else that finds this, wonderful. If you know of a better way to do this, and you know of another tutorial or another resource, by all means, drop a comment down in the comment section. Let me know. If these are helpful for you, please leave a comment. Again, like, subscribe, get notifications, and I'm going to try to keep doing these along with some of my 1X player videos. In fact, I'm gonna test out RPG Maker MV and RPG Maker MZ on the 1X player coming up here to see if it runs on those. I'm really hoping it does. So anyway, again, I hope this helps, folks, and I hope you guys have good luck in finding whatever you need. Thank you for stopping by, and happy game developing. All right, have a great day, everybody.